Nerves from no, not nerves. I mean, Kevin is a guy that obviously, myself and including other guys, we all want back here with Oklahoma City Thunder. But at the same time, he has to make a decision that's best for him and what best fits him. But Kevin's, like I said, I always say before, like a brother to me. So regardless of what happens, we're always going to be friends, and everything's going to work out. So.
Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook are continuing their war of words. Durant is on the cover of Rolling Stone and talked about leaving OKC because the Thunder weren't trying to win now. He also admitted he didn't hang out with Westbrook on road trips. Westbrook is on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and it was revealed that his 4th of July Instagram post of cupcakes was a shot at Durant because Thunder players would call each other Cupcake if they were acting soft.
It's crazy the difference that just 4 years, one presidential term, the difference that makes in the NBA. In the 2016-2017 season, this is a picture that I found as a preview for that season. Now, what exactly do you notice about the picture? In a picture that literally featured the faces of the NBA, there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Only 7 players that's currently on the same team as the picture right now. A few of them, they've actually been on multiple teams since this picture. Now, just to refresh your memory about the times just 4 years ago and how drastically different they were, President Obama was actually still the president at the start of the season. Colin Kaepernick still had a starting job for the San Francisco 49ers at the start of the season. Skip Bayless recently left ESPN, started his new show with who we now know as Uncle Shay. Team USA just dominated past the Olympics and brought home the gold. NBA 2K, they just released what to me was the start of the demise of NBA 2K, and everybody was waiting to see what, at the time, it looked like it was the craziest lineup or one of them ever assembled. Now, fans, players, former players, the NBA world as a whole, we were very critical of the move, and some people even questioned whether it would really work. Meanwhile, LeBron and the Cavs, they were gearing up for a possible repeat for Cleveland. And speaking of LeBron, the new LeBron, fresh out of LSU, we got the devastating news that he would miss the full season with the Jones fracture in his foot, so that hurt too. Also, if you don't remember, this pretty funny commercial aired right after Ben Simmons got drafted.
Tell him, Devin.
That's right. Nothing comes easy anymore.
Anything else I should know, D'Angelo?
Got a phone? Trust me.
The season basically started out with all the attention on Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook basically playing without each other for the first time ever. They faced each other for the first time ever just 5 games into the season, didn't speak to each other, and as expected, Golden State just mollywopped them. Now, it's pretty crazy because we looked at that roster back then and the names they had, and we thought it was just Russell Westbrook and a bunch of subpar pieces. But if you look at that roster closely now, it's actually very, very interesting. The Warriors, they actually started out their season getting punished, and I mean getting dominated by 30, and we all got excited and said it wasn't going to work. The NBA does have a little bit of parity. Golden State was better last year and all that. But just 20 games into the season, we slowly started to realize, like, KD, yeah, he did mess up the NBA, bro. The reigning back-to-back MVP in today's NBA, he was still looking like that kid that wasn't sure if he belonged, still kind of unsure of himself. But by the end of the year, he showed drastic improvement and actually won the most improved player. The Spurs, kind of always being that low-key dominating franchise dynasty type team they always were, they were actually coming off of a very underwhelming type of season, in my opinion. They had a season where they won 67 games, tied the 85-86 Celtics for the best home record ever with 40 wins and only 1 loss, looked like they were the best team to beat the Golden State Warriors, and lost in the semifinals to OKC in 6 games, and ultimately Tim Duncan retired, getting blown out. It just wasn't a good ending. They came into the season with a lot to prove and avenging Tim Duncan's last loss getting blown out, but unfortunately, this was like the last year that we knew them as the Spurs, and I mean the Spurs, and you'll see why later. Christmas Day, this day featured one of the most anticipated matchups probably of all time. The Golden State Warriors with a new fresh face versus the Cleveland Cavaliers with Kevin Love, Kyrie Irving, LeBron, and the new championship DNA they had. Like, this, it just didn't get no better than this. If you watch this game, bruh, you know. This was the greatest Christmas Day game I've ever seen in my entire life, with everything behind it, the anticipation, the rivalry, all that stuff, and the game itself with all the dunks, RJ dunking on Klay Thompson, LeBron dunking, Kyrie hitting the game-winning shot again, all the stuff behind it. It was one of the craziest games ever. This game was so lit and so anticipated. It actually broke the Christmas Day streaming record for the NBA. Like, that's how many people tuned in. Entering the calendar year of 2017, the NBA's focus was slowly getting off of Golden State and how dominant they were with Kevin Durant, and now more so onto the individual performances of two former teammates basically going after the exact same award. Going into the All-Star break, Russell Westbrook was averaging a triple-double. Now, we hear it now and we're numb to it because he damn near killed the stat. But at the time, it didn't even sound right coming off of your tongue. Meanwhile, James Harden, he had his team as a 3rd seed in the West without any other stars. And he was only like 1.7 rebounds shy of averaging a triple-double. So, I mean, it was a hard choice. Also around this time, we started hearing about this kid and his father and his family.
You think he can be as good as Steph Curry in the NBA?
Heck no. He's going to be better than Steph Curry in the NBA.
LeVar, I'm not going to tell you how to be a parent or what you should and shouldn't do, because all intents and purposes look like you raised 3 great young men. But do you think you might have went out on the limb a little bit too far when you said your son, who's a college freshman at UCLA, is better than Steph Curry, a 2-time MVP, with the last time being unanimous?
No. On the fact that I have the utmost confidence in what my son does. And just because I say he's better than somebody, who cares? I believe it. So I don't care what nobody else says. You can judge on your own.
Wrapping up the season, Russell Westbrook averaged that triple-double and had 42 triple-doubles in the season, and he won the MVP. But James Harden ultimately got the last laugh when it mattered most. Malcolm Brogdon, I mean, he damn near came out of nowhere and stole Joel Embiid's Rookie of the Year because he was injured. And the NBA playoffs, it was heavily, and I mean heavily, dominated by 2 teams. Golden State, they literally swept the Western Conference. They swept the West, bruh. That takes like pure domination. I know the Lakers and Kobe and Shaq, they did it too, but even the Spurs, and when they were dominating, they were going to game 7s, game 6s, hurdles, stuff like that. They weren't doing it like that. And in the Eastern Conference, the Cavs damn near did the exact same thing in the East. They only lost 1 game. This automatically made the finals OD intriguing. We already had KD joining. We already had the fact that this is the first time 2 teams met 3 consecutive years. We already had the Christmas Day games. Like, it was just crazy hype. Now, going back to the real playoffs really quickly, it was dominated by 2 teams, but it did have some pretty significant moments. Washington versus Boston. They had a crazy, and I mean crazy, 2nd round series. It went to a game 7. IT scored 51 for his sister. All this craziness. It was real beef between those two. But unfortunately, this was like the last time that we seen IT be IT. After that series, after that postseason, he was never the same. Paul George continued what we now know as playoff P. Paul George, bro, I love your game, but I gotta tell the story. In game 3, in round 1 versus Cleveland, they were up by 26 points. Now, obviously, they were down 0-2, so this was a pretty significant game going back to Indiana. They were up by 26 points in the 3rd quarter, and they lost that game, and then they lost game 4. And in game 4, this man played terrible. Like, this is where it all started, and that was his last game in Indiana. And as for Paul George's now teammate Kawhi Leonard, you can blame this man for single-handedly killing the greatest, most dominant 20-year stretch from a franchise probably of all time. This man single-handedly destroyed it. The NBA Finals, it pretty much featured the exact same theme for most of their games. Nick and tuck first quarters, possibly second quarters, and in the second half, Kevin Durant and all that firepower, they just went off and just steamed Cleveland. Game 3, we all kind of got our hopes up and thought it could be a good series. Cleveland was up late, but KD just came down court and just stomped on that, and they ultimately won in 5 games.
And you collect the troops up again, and we get ready to go do this thing again. So they have an incredible team. They beat us, but I'm pretty sure we'll be back and we'll be ready to battle again.
Kyrie's side of the camp is disgusted because their mentality is that they didn't put this out. They believe LeBron James and his camp put this out. LeBron James people obviously categorically deny such a thing, but Kyrie Irving's side of the camp believes that LeBron has put this out because LeBron was a bit perturbed at what he had heard Kyrie Irving told Cleveland Cavaliers management. So it clearly is a dysfunctional situation right now, and it seems to be going south.